Chief Programming Officer. And the idea with this is we're going to place the commissions, the issues and identity-based commissions that the Assembly has, and most of that programming happens underneath those two people. They're going to be placed underneath the Chief of Staff and Chief Programming Officer. The idea is to create a structure of support for these commissions, which most likely, or in many cases, don't have the support necessary. Even though the five of us want to give that support, sometimes we can't always. So the idea is the Chief of Staff would be that day-to-day person. And the Chief Programming Officer would do the week-to-week thing. And that actually was, the Chief Programming Officer was the idea of a couple of different MSA members coming to me, specifically Ian Margolis sort of brought that up and started that discussion, which I thought was a great idea. You know, there's been so many people that have sort of been involved in this process, and the bounce off and the sort of collection of ideas and writing this over and over and over again has been a fantastic educational experience, and I can't wait to share that with the rest of the Michigan community as we sort of go forward with this petition process. The idea with the executive branch is to create accountability, a system where if someone isn't doing their job, we can recognize that and remove them and make sure that student services are always available to students at this university, that the trains are always running on time. And then Section 4, or Article 4, on page 7 is actually a really great step in the right direction, I think, with the Central Student Judiciary. This judiciary would basically move down from 9 members, from 10 to 9 members, so as to keep it odd. And there's now a cap on who can be in, like how many seats from one degree granting unit can be in there. So it's a little bit more democratic that way. But also, the judiciary is going to be able to hear a number of different cases in this case, so as to ensure that students always have a place to go and be tried by their peers, which I think is the most important. But also, we expanded the role of the CSJ by including and incorporating a new sort of type of person called advocates, sort of like attorneys almost, that student organizations can go to for advice, and students can go to for advice to actually use the Central Student Judiciary, which is not used and utilized to its fullest potential now. So the idea there is, we're separating out the powers, we're providing a system of checks and balances, but we got to this and we said, well, we can't completely separate everything out because this is student government. It has certain limitations placed on us. One of them is membership. So the idea is, I think there's 3 types of people in the Assembly right now. I think there's people that love to do commission work and hate to go to these Tuesday night meetings. There's people that love to go to these Tuesday night meetings and don't really like to do commission work. And then there's the mixture of someone who loves to do both. The idea is to keep those places, or create places for all those people to coexist in this new system. And then we think that we've done that by separating out the executives, basically leaving them out of the legislative branch, except for the president and vice president as a non-voting ex officio on the Assembly, so as to know what's going on, and have all the committee and commission membership and commission membership and chairs also be able to hold a representative seat. Another way to increase the communication between the branches is that the Assembly Speaker will also be on the executive branch, so, or as an executive. So that to increase the communication between the two bodies to ensure that everyone's being held accountable. There's a lot of different mechanisms in this thing that I could get into and move forward with that, but the idea here is I'm going to leave you with Article 5 ratification, transition, and amendments. If this were to go up for a vote and be ratified by the student body on March 25th, the idea is it gets ratified initially, but it takes a year to basically fully take effect. So the new Assembly next year will have the ability to institute this new Constitution as they see fit, whether it be by creating a committee or delegating that task to the executive. So that's basically the overview there. Any questions? Okay.
Well, okay. There's stuff in here that I like.
Great.
I have one thing that I haven't thoroughly read the whole thing, but my one thing that stands out to me as a problem is the giving the execs, like the changing of the execs like rights and responsibilities that, like, as of now execs can vote, but now, okay, this is like proposing to say execs cannot vote, but the president, is it the president or the president would have the the right to veto a vote of the assembly.
Yeah, so.
And then, okay, this is just my understanding.
Sure.
Okay, so the president, so let's say we take a vote, a majority vote, simple majority vote,
Yep.
and then the president vetoes it. And then the assembly could overrule that veto by a 2/3 vote.
Yes.
So that basically gives the president, it takes away the right to vote an individual vote, but then it gives the president the right to kind of like overrule it basically says that any resolution would really have to be able to be passed by a 2/3 vote. And that's not saying that the president would usually do that, but I think that's a problem, to give the president the right to veto any majority vote and then say the only way to overturn that would be to take a 2/3 vote. So.
Well, thank you for your concern. You do have it right. The idea behind that was to create a system of checks and balances so that no one body had the complete control over the proceedings of student government here at Michigan. Currently, as it stands right now, the president could be the head of this assembly, whip votes all he wants, vote to make the tie, break it, and also be the Chief Justice of CSJ. In this new system, we sort of separated that out. Even though the president has the ability to veto the legislative branch still has the power to impeach the president, which does not exist now. So there is a double check on that. So I mean, if 2/3 of the assembly think that, hey, this president isn't doing his job, they may impeach him, which is a completely new check on executive power that has never been there before. So even though there are a system of checks and balances, and you might find some redistribution of power, what you will see, I think, in a general trend with this new document is that the power that is sort of situated up here generally is going to be basically split off. While consolidated in certain areas, as a whole, the assembly is a much more powerful body than it is right now.
I like the idea of the advocates and how they are getting involved. I'm just curious how this would associate with like Oscar and like what balance between what Oscar does overreach what the advocates do.
So the idea is the advocates are specifically for CSJ. And let me find the section on jurisdiction, because you're going to want to take a look at that. So 1 second. Line 243, the Central Student Judiciary may hear appeals from inferior courts, challenges under this Constitution and the compiled code, central student government elections, and any other case they deem appropriate. This is, but not so basically any other, yes?
So basically, so like in terms of like things that have to do with student government, and say, there would be people who specifically have pretty good knowledge of that could help these groups.
Yes, they will know that the rights that everyone is, the rights that everyone has underneath this Constitution, they will know how to defend them and bring cases to CSJ to ensure that everyone has the ability to be heard by their peers. The idea here is to create an avenue in which students at the University of Michigan have the right and the ability to be heard by a panel of their peers, not just by Oscar. So this is a separate avenue that can be used, that we think will be, if used well, will actually provide utility to the students at the University of Michigan. Thanks for the question.
Can you maybe speak to the changes that are being proposed regarding recall representatives? Is there, the current system is flawed, and how is that being changed?
Yeah, so I mean, currently, it's almost impossible to get someone recalled and kicked off the assembly. This certainly basically introduces the ability of subsidiary governments to have the, they have the ability to place a resolution on the Assembly's agenda for a recall. So that means that, say, let's pick one out of the hat. Law school student senate decides that they think the law rep on the Assembly, no offense, is doing a terrible job not representing law students. They can initiate the legislative procedure in order to get that person removed, thereby giving it sort of new meaning. Yes.
If they're removed by the University Council, what happens if we call them an election?
Yes, if they're removed by the University Council, then they are removed instead of a recall election.